Sept, hello, Ted.
How are we doing, John?
Very good. Yeah, we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman. Anytime you start, it is 6:30.
Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order then at this point. This is a virtual meeting that's being streamed to the public, and as such, I trust that all participants will conduct yourself in a professional manner. The first thing we're going to do is take care of the approval of the August 11th meeting minutes. And those board members, have you had a chance to review those, I assume? And if so, do we have a motion to accept them as presented?
I motion to accept.
Okay, who made the first motion?
Oh.
Bud Potter.
Bud, okay, and who seconded it?
Matt.
Matt, okay. All right, there is no old business, so we're going to get right into.
We have to vote on those minutes, Mr. Chairman. I think we have to take a vote as well to approve the minutes.
For the minutes, okay. Do you want to do a roll call since we're on video here?
Oh, sure. If you can do a roll call. Sure. Bud?
Yes.
Matthew Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Scott Deisler?
Yes.
We have 4 affirmative votes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right, moving right along, we're into new business. And the first case is application 244 VAR 20. Jennifer and Jason DeSalvo at 6545 Estelle Road. Variance number 306.043 regarding a side yard setback for a new garage. John, do you want to just give a brief overview of the
Sure.
situation?
Sure. They applied for a garage permit. I believe it was late June, maybe early July. That permit was approved. Then the contractor came out and the contractor made the recommendation that they move the garage a little bit away from the house. I'll let the Salvo speak to the reasons why, but because of that, they would need this very minor setback of 3 feet.
Okay, all right. Well, at this time, anyone that is going to testify in this case, either in favor or not of this variance,
How's I don't have
please raise your right hand.
the video.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. And anyone that testifies in this format, please state your name before you begin testifying so we know who you are. I guess that would bring up, I presume, the applicant, Jennifer DeSalvo. Do you wish to testify?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I sure can, yes.
Okay, great. We have been Brookside residents, my husband Jason and I, for 13 years, and we plan to stay for years to come. We love this great neighborhood and feel really grateful to be raising our 2 children here. Our current garage that is attached is a 1.5 car garage, and it holds 2 classic cars. It leaves our daily drivers outside. And furthermore, as our family has grown, so has our need for storage. So this detached garage that we would be greatly helpful with both of these issues. We've talked about doing it for years and finally would like to get it done. We realized the variance was necessary. Like John said, when the contractor came out, he plotted the garage. And when we saw it on the ground, the way it worked out off of our property line, it was really close to our home. And it looked, aesthetically just looked strange because it would have been really close to the property. Another concern we had was the walkway from the garage to the home would be very narrow, and we use that side entrance on a daily basis. What else, hon? Thirdly, yeah, so we just saw, oh, and also the driveway issue. So the way it plotted out, our driveway wouldn't have lined up with the driveway. So those are our three main concerns. So our variance request is for the 3-foot shift of the garage away from our home, which would remedy all the problems I just mentioned. We would still maintain a 5-foot side yard to our neighbor's property. Our neighbors are graciously in total agreement with this, and we really appreciate their support. Our new garage that we have, hoping to build will look very nice. It will be like an extension of our home. Stucco interior, we're gonna have windows. I wanna do some window boxes with flowers, landscape the outside next year. So we think it would look really nice and just overall benefit our needs as well as, the neighborhood, what you see when you drive by. So we would appreciate the approval of the variance. We thank the board for your consideration and all the work you do that helps keep our neighborhood great. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would wish to speak?
Yeah, this is Mike Wallenhorst. I'm here with my wife, Caroline Ramos. We're at 6535 Estella Road, just to the south of the applicant's property. And it's against our property that they're asking for the variance. And I just wanted to reiterate what Jen said, and that is that we're in total support of the variance and in support of the project. They've been great neighbors, and extra garage is not a bad thing to have in the neighborhood, we don't think. So we're in full support. That's all.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mike.
All right, well, for this case, 244 VAR 20, and considering an application for an area variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals uses a set of factors that are weighted and considered in determining whether the applicant has encountered practical difficulties in the use of such property. And those factors include: 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. 2, whether the variance is substantial. 3, whether the variance is whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether the adjoining properties would suffer any substantial detriment as a result of the variance. 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, e.g. water, sewer, garbage. And 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions. 6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. And 7, whether the spirit intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Based on these factors, I move to approve case number 244 VAR 20 for the property located at 6545 Estelle Road, Columbus, seeking a variance from the provisions of Perry Township Zoning Resolution 306.043 to allow a detached garage as submitted to be constructed closer to the side property line than permitted, but no closer than 5 feet from the side lot line. Do I have a second from my board, any of my board members on this motion?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion from any of my board members?
I have none.
Okay, John, let's do a roll call vote from each of us, please.
There, sorry, I was muted. Tom Francis? Are you voting yes? I'm doing the roll call. Tom?
Yes.
Bud Potter?
Yes.
Matt Ward?
Yes.
Jim Kent?
Yes.
Scott Dysworth?
Yes.
5-0 vote.
Okay, well, that concludes our first case.
Thank you.
So you guys are more than welcome to exit the meeting if you wish. And we'll move on. We'll move on to application 245 VAR 20, which is
Thank you.
Sept and Jeff, property owners at 7700 Candlewood Drive, variance number 306.043. And this is a side yard setback for a non-compliant patio. John, do you want to summarize this case briefly, please?
Sure. The patio was, the construction of the patio was begun without a permit. I noticed it, I think it was in early June when I was driving around, and stopped and alerted the homeowner that the patio, that they didn't have a permit for the patio and they needed to apply for a permit. They did apply, and then I let them know that they were too close to the property line and would need a variance. Essentially, they are 1.5 feet from the rear. They should be 8 feet. So they're asking for a 6.5 foot variance for the patio. And I'll let Stacy and Jeff, I think I saw them on here, take it from here if you're ready.
Let me swear them in first. Hang on a sec.
Oh,
Anyone, including the applicants, anyone that's going to testify either in favor or not of this variance, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. And is that also the applicants, I assume?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. And then just anyone that speaks, please state your name again so we have it for the record. And
Chairman, just to cross eyes and, nope, that's not right. Just to dot eyes and cross to you. Mr. Canty, you were already sworn in for the purposes of these hearings, correct?
I was sworn in first when I was swearing myself into the second one as well, but maybe I don't need to each time.
I think legally you can be sworn in one time since you'll be testifying in each of these cases.
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
No problem.
All right. If the applicants want to make your case.
Yep. We bought our house, we moved 200 yards down the road. And we have a really strange lot. It's a big lot, but the way the house sits, it's very close to our neighbors behind us. We don't have a backyard. There was a privacy fence here when we moved in. So we extended and added a patio within the fence. So that's what we did. An 8-foot fence if we were 8 feet off of the fence, our family of 5 can't even sit at a patio table comfortably. So we made a bigger patio.
Yeah, we've spoken with the neighbors. We have their full support.
Our neighbors wrote a letter. We had everything checked before we did anything. There's nothing that runs between our 2 properties. And yeah.
Okay. And we have your photo exhibits as well that pretty much show this for what it is. So is there anything else you guys wish to say, or is that it?
I really don't have anything else.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this matter? All right. Well, for case number 245 VAR 20, in considering an application for an area.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to admit the letter? Did the board receive a copy of that letter that Mrs. Niemans-Verdreet mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to admit that as like Exhibit A if it's not marked already as an exhibit?
Was that the letter from the adjoining or the property owner?
There should be one from us and then one from the Pages, Tad and Amy Page.
Yeah, Tad and Amy Page. Okay, so yeah, let's be sure we have that admitted and the one from the applicants. And also they had photo exhibits A through G that should also be admitted, including for several pages of the plans for this in relation to their home and site and where this patio is. So all of that should be submitted. Okay, so moving right along, case number 245 VAR 20, and considering an application for an area variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals uses a set of factors that are weighted and considered in determining whether the applicant has encountered practical difficulties in the use of such property, and those factors include: 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without a variance; 2, whether a variance is substantial; 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance; 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of government services; 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of zoning restrictions; 6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance; and finally, 7, whether the spirit intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Based on these factors, I move to approve case number 245 VAR 20 for the property located at 7700 Candlewood Lane, Columbus, seeking a variance from the provisions of the Perry Township zoning resolution section 306.043 to allow a patio to remain as constructed, less than the required 8 feet on one side of the yard, but no closer than 1.5 feet to the side of the property line. Do I have one of my board members seconding this motion?
I would second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question for John. Are there any drainage issues with there being almost no setback at the rear of the property to the neighbor's property?
You're muted.
I'm sorry?
John's mic is off.
Sorry, I keep muting my mic so that my rustling papers won't make any noise. Sorry. No, I didn't notice any drainage issues. There's a small, which one of the photos shows that there's a small,
We have drainage rock.
section. If you look at photo D,
Okay.
there's about a 12-inch, I'd say, section there of gravel or decorative stones between the new patio and the fence, which should allow for sufficient drainage. And then immediately on the other side of that fence is the neighbor's driveway.
Fine. Okay, yep. Corner lots with small backyards present unique challenges to the code, so, okay.
So the only other thing that I would say as a requirement, I think the fence would always need to remain if we need to put that somewhere in the motion. I mean, it seems to me that it's appropriate as long as the fence is there.
The previous owner put up the fence, and so it's less than a year old, I think, or just about a year old. So we're not planning on taking it down.
No, I know you're not. These just kind of go with the property
Okay.
in forever. So,
Okay.
and it's just a discussion item for the board if you guys think that as well. I mean, we're looking at it. Obviously if the fence ever came down, it would be more of an issue.
So Scott, if you want to propose that, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, that Scott would need to amend the motion that's on the table to include the fence in, I don't want to say in perpetuity, but the fence must be there as long as patio. Jen, what's your take on this?
To include a condition, you're exactly right, John, to include a condition that the fence or a fence remain substantially similar to the existing fence.
Okay.
That those things go hand in hand. So to play out the hypothetical, if at some point the patio gets torn up by a future owner, they don't want to do it that way, or the current owners don't want to do it that way, that they wouldn't be bound to keep the fence either, but that the patio goes with the fence. So you could add at the end of the motion that's already on the table, subject to the condition, that a fence substantially similar to the existing fence remain while the patio exists in its current, its current form.
Okay. So Scott, if you want to make that motion, then we would need a second from another board member, and then we would need to vote on the amended motion.
Okay, yeah, so I would move to amend the current motion to include the fence as long as the patio is there in the substantial, similar to what's currently there, as long as the patio is there.
This is Matt. I'll second.
Okay, we just need a roll call, right?
We're back to discussion of the motion, if there's any other discussion of your motion, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if there's any other discussion on your motion, or are you ready to call the roll?
I'm ready to call the roll.
All righty. Tom Francis,
Yes.
Bud Potter,
Yes.
Matt Ward,
Yes.
Jim Kent,
Yes.
Scott Deisler.
Yes.
Motion's approved 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, that brings up our next case. That is case number 246, VAR 20. Stephen Ostrander for David Ostrander at property 3522 Henderson Road. And just to clarify, the owners of this property are Stephen and Janine Ostrander, and the residents, the occupants of this property is David and Kelsey Ostrander. And this is regarding variance for it's 502.031 parentheses number 2, which is permitted fencing for a non-compliant fence. And John, do you want to summarize this case, please?
Sure. Again, while I was furloughed in the months of April and May, this fence was constructed, and I noticed it, I think it was the first week of June when I came back on duty. And so I left them a notice that we need to apply for a fence. I should say that there was a fence that was already there, a very, very old fence, could have been original to the house. It could have been a 40-year-old fence. It was not in the best shape. It was still there. Still served its purpose. So early June, I noticed that there was a new fence. I asked them to apply for a permit, which they did. I then informed them that they would need a variance because the fence was not in compliance with the zoning regulations. The fence should not have been should not have extended past the edge of the garage. You can see in several pictures, exhibit B1 and B2 are photos that show that it's approximately 40 feet past the line where it should have been constructed. That's probably the best illustration. So they would need a variance in order to keep the fence where it is currently constructed. And with that, we'll turn it over to the applicants. And I've noticed that in addition to David Kelsey, it appears that we have Stephen Ostrander. I'm sorry. Yeah, Stephen Ostrander on here as well. I'm not sure who's going to testify.
All right, well, whoever's going to testify, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
We do.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, you have the floor. Take it away.
Hi. Yeah, so we did purchase our home in 2016 as a family. My in-laws own the home, as was mentioned, but we're the ones residing here and have been the only people residing here until we just recently had our baby. When we purchased the home, there was a fence throughout the entire property. As John mentioned, I do believe there was a fence that was original to the property when it was originally erected. I do believe in our application, I tried to send several pictures to show there's two fences that were here when we purchased the home. One that we were informed by our neighbors, Aaron Kelly and Tyler Price, that was installed by the prior owners, the Funks. And then there is the one that was original, I do believe, just based off wear and tear and how it looked, to the 50s when the house was originally built. With that in mind, we did believe that we were allowed to have a fence installed along the same premises lines that was already there. That was our mistake. We did try and get in contact with zoning, but unfortunately it was during the COVID times and it was remiss. We did not pursue that further, and we went ahead and installed the fence, and we do apologize for that action rather than going through this variance application first. In terms of the new fence, we do believe it is a curb appeal enhancement. Obviously, this is a 6-foot shadow box privacy fence rather than just like not barbed wire, but
Galvanized
steel, like rolled wire fencing. Our neighbors directly to the west and east of us both have indicated how much they like the fence and really enjoy how it looks for the property and the curb appeal of Henderson Heights. I do believe Aaron Kelly and Tyler Price submitted an email on our behalf, which I noticed on the documents for today's agenda. So we would ask for the board to consider their letter as well. We have dogs, and we obviously have a little one, and we really would request that our variance be approved for just that privacy and security with having dogs and a young child in the yard. We're a young family, and we, love our home and love the neighborhood, but we were hoping to have a little bit more privacy in our yard. I think for safety concerns for where we're located as a corner lot, the fence is not up towards Henderson Heights and Henderson Road, where there is an intersection where the fence could impede view for people turning in and out. Obviously, I think that's a big concern with corner lots and any fencing that's installed. Our application does have some pictures from close to Henderson Road where the fence is. We have about just under an acre of our property, and the fence is more than halfway back away from Henderson Road. And then again, we just really want to be able to keep the fence for the security and privacy of our pets and our children moving forward. We do think it upholds the integrity and aesthetic, desires of Perry Township. And we would like for you to consider our application and grant the variance. John has been great to work with through this process, especially I think I found out a couple weeks before I was due and got this in right as I had him. And he's been great to work with, and we just really do apologize that this variance wasn't granted in advance. That was our mistake with COVID and everything happening, but we would request that you grant our variance.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify at this time? Moving right along then, I want to be sure that their variance request and all their exhibits are submitted into evidence, and the additional letter as well that was referenced.
Yeah, so I think you can go ahead. I mean, whatever was submitted along with the packet, I don't think you'd have to, that's already been being submitted and marked accordingly. But I think we need to admit the letter we received from the township received from Ms. Kelly.
Yes.
And you can call that exhibit, whatever we're up to on exhibit numbers for this application. Looks like possibly E or F.
Yeah, we're pretty far up there. Let's see.
I think we're to D here.
Yeah, he would
So
work.
that letter could be Exhibit E then,
Great.
okay?
Mhm.
All right, so for case number 246 VAR 20 and considering an application for an area variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals uses a set of factors that are weighted and considered in determining whether an applicant has encountered practical difficulties in the use of such property. Those factors include: 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. 2, whether the variance is substantial. 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with the knowledge of the zoning restriction. And 6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. And 7, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Based on these factors, I move to approve case number 246 VAR 20 for the property located at 3522 Henderson Road, Columbus, seeking a variance from the provisions of Perry Township zoning resolution section 502.031 parentheses 2 to allow a solid fence to remain as constructed as submitted forward of the front corner of the primary structure. Do I have a second from any of my board members?
This is bad. I'll second.
Any discussion, board members?
My only comment is, once again, we have a corner lot that presents unique circumstances. I have no questions, though.
All right, I'll call for a roll call from John, please.
Tom Francis,
Yes.
Scott Deisler,
Yes.
Matt Ward,
Yes.
Jim Kent,
Yes.
Bud Potter.
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Okay, again, any of the past participants from the prior cases, if you wish to exit, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Our final application for this evening is application number 247 VAR 20, Michael Baylor at 1425 Beach Lake Drive, variance 512.012, accessory structure location for a non-compliant shed. John, you want to summarize this one, please?
Sure. I guess first of all, I'll point out that since the public file was sent around, since the public file was put together last week and then sent and put out to the public, there are 2 more exhibits, 2 letters that we received, E and F. I know that they've gone out to the board members, but the public has probably not seen them. Exhibit E is a email from a neighbor writing in support of it, and Exhibit F is email from a neighbor in opposition. One of the letters goes into great details. The other one is just a kind of a general. This letter of support is just supporting the shed, not complaining about it in any way. So I do want to point those out. So those probably have to be admitted into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, both E and F exhibits should be admitted. And regarding Exhibit F, that was in opposition. John, are you able to comment on the points that were made regarding AEP that prohibits sheds in an easement encroachment situation like this, and what their regulations are that were referenced in Exhibit F? Are these valid in your opinion?
I didn't go on the AEP this website here that talks about the property owners' right of ways. I'm assuming that what they say is true, but I did not verify that. No.
Hey, John, that line, I did see a copy of that letter today, just before this meeting. That is an actual cable line above the shed, not an electrical line. Our electrical lines are buried. So what they're referring to is inaccurate.
Oh, okay. So those are not electrical lines above it. Okay.
No, that's a cable line.
Okay.
All right, all right. Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that there are also, I mean, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, there might be 2 more documents that possibly the email from Ms. is it Krakoff today? Or it came into the township on Monday, but was sent around perhaps today.
You're right.
As well as, John, I think you prepared this, with your dimensions from your most recent measurements. We may want to number those as maybe G and H.
Wasn't that was Exhibit D? Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. What was that one?
Exhibit D, wasn't it? I think.
Oh my gosh.
That one. I don't, yeah.
That was like a plat plan, and it showed the distances between the dwelling and the shed and the property line.
Right.
Versus the zoning code.
I guess we can mark that as Exhibit F then.
I think we're already up to F, right, with the Weitzel's letter. So do you want, John, your sort of plat drawing map with dimensions to be G?
Yes, that would be G. That would.
And then Ms. Krakoff's email to be H?
H, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
No problem.
Did you have anything else, John, you wanted to add or not?
Just in short summary, the board members who Mr. Brailer applied for a permit back in, I believe it was May. Once again, I was on furlough because of COVID. The permit was not approved initially. There were some questions about the placement. I went out and actually met with Mr. Brailer early June. I think it was maybe the second week of June when I was back on duty, and we discussed where the shed should be. He then submitted a revised plan, and then a revised plan, and those are already in the exhibits. I forget what letters they are, but I'm sure the board members have seen them. So the revised plan approved the shed to be behind the line coming off the rear of the house, which is where our zoning regulations require sheds to be. So that's how it was approved. Then several weeks later, probably July, I can't remember exactly when the shed was delivered. I was driving by and saw the shed, and I met with Mr. Brailer then and looked at it. I came back to the office and checked my notes to verify what I thought I recalled from the previous month of June. I sent him a letter, I think maybe called as well, and told him that where it was placed was not going to be approved. And if he wanted to keep the shed there, he'd have to apply for variance, which we are now considering.
Okay, is that everything, John, that you?
That's my short summary. Yeah, I'm open for any other questions, but that's my short summary.
Okay, all right. Anyone, the applicants, I presume, that are going to testify either in favor or not of this variance, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, all right. And anyone that is testifying, please state your name before you speak, and I'll turn this over to the applicants at this point.
My name is Michael Brailer, and we're the applicants, my wife Kelly. And yes, we are sort of like Jen DeSabato earlier. We have a unique or we've been in the hills, Worthington Hills, for quite some time. We want to improve our house, sort of outgrowing it, so we wanted to add a shed. Like Stacy and her family, we have a unique plot because we're on sort of the corner of the lot, the way Beach Lake comes around the corner there. So we decided our lot is sort of at a pie shaped, and the widest part is where we put the shed. We did apply for the permit as we discussed. John did come back and we did discuss that, him and I just misinterpreted our conversation. So otherwise I would have applied for the variance before we even placed the shed. So I was a little miscommunication on my behalf. John and I talked through that, and I apologize for my, just what I interpreted our conversation. So we are here with the variance to place the shed on the side of the home. And we wanted to make improve the property value and the look of a shed, and not just have a run-of-the-mill Rubbermaid shed on the side of the yard. So we decided to customize it and make it look like the property. We have not yet landscaped, or I bought trees and stuff to put around it, but we haven't even really landscaped around it to sort of blend it into the landscape of the property, because we did not know if we have to move it if we don't have this variance approved. So with that being said, it's aesthetically going to be a real addition to the property and the neighborhood. The neighbors have all complimented it, minus that letter that you received.
Which I'd like to note that they also had made a complaint about another variance, hearing before. So, I'm not sure what the reason is, but they live actually further down the street. So they're not even in close proximity to where we live.
Yeah, we just, I don't know what else to say, but the way our lot is shaped, our shed butts up to the neighbor's backyard and doesn't encroach on their yard. And it's actually sort of, as you can see in one of your exhibits, it's right next to their shed as well. Matt and Kelly Meineke. They did not write a letter. They were willing to write a letter. I didn't think we should submit a letter. I didn't know, but they do like the property. So
the other shed on there. It's also not close to the street, which I think is a huge value as well.
Yeah, it doesn't impede on traffic. It sits behind the property line. It just doesn't, the front of the property line, it just doesn't sit behind the property line.
Okay, is there anything else you wish to add, or anyone else that wants to testify in favor or not of this?
Mr. Chairman, can I clarify something about the variances being sought here tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so, and Mr. and Mrs. Briller, I'm not trying to drop any bombshells on you. I'm trying to clarify this while you're sitting here. As I understand it, you applied for one variance, namely that you have put a shed in front of your rear yard. What I think has been discovered in the course of just looking at your materials, I looked at them, John's been looking at them, is that probably what you may also want to amend your application here and now. That's totally up to you. That's always up to an applicant in the course of a hearing. If an extra variance is discovered, rather than have the BZA, act on one variance and tell you the next day, oh, but that's too bad. There were actually a couple more that, that's not anyone's goal, right? That's
yeah, sure.
So what actually was discovered is that it's really that you're probably needing to ask for 3. And the other 2, so we've got the one where instead of a shed being in the backyard as it's required, it's somewhere other than the backyard, it's where you have it. The second is that it's basically too close to your home by, I think it's like 2.5 feet.
Okay.
And it's too close to your side property line. You have the same issue that, a couple other applicants have had here tonight, where it's too close to your neighbors, the lot line you share with your neighbor.
Okay.
I think, again, it's required to be 5 feet. A shed can be 5 feet, and yours is 3.5. So again, you're 1.5 feet too close to that side property line. So that's up to you. Oh,
was that measured to the property pin or just the fence along the side? I just didn't know where that measurement was coming from. And
that was measured to the fence.
To the fence, okay.
Right, which I believe is your neighbor's fence, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just curious. Yeah, I mean, if we can add that to the variance, that would be great.
So I interpret what you're saying to be that, yes, you would like to amend your application to request all 3 variances.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So those all make sense to you. And
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what's before the board this evening, all 3 of those variances and not just the one regarding the location.
Okay, thank you, Jen.
All within this foot, right?
All right. Is there anyone else, just last final call here, that wishes to testify on behalf of this case? Okay, for case number 247, variance 20, and considering an application for an area variance,
Can I interrupt one more time? Because that's just what I do, apparently. Mr. Brailer, you sort of testified right before you were sworn in, and I just want to make sure that we capture that within your sworn testimony, that the structure is under cable lines, not power lines. Is that
It's under cable lines, yes.
Okay, that's your testimony, but it's not power lines. Okay, that's all I
Not
wanted
that
to clear up.
I'm aware of, no.
Cable lines.
Okay. I didn't want that to be outside, to have that be very technical, like a lawyer thing to do, to make sure that
No,
that's
absolutely.
within your sworn testimony.
There is I actually even double checked that. I double checked what a cable line looks like and all that. And I see the cable guys coming back and forth through my property to fix the line. So I know it's a cable line.
Understood. Okay, Mr. Francis, I won't interrupt again.
Okay, all right, moving right along. And concerning an application for an area variance, the Board of Zoning Appeals uses a set of factors that are weighted and considered in determining whether an applicant has encountered practical difficulties in the use of such property. Those factors include, number 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. 2, whether the variance is substantial. 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. 6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. And 7, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. I move to deny case 247 VAR 20 for the property located at 1425 Beach Lake Drive, Columbus, seeking of variances from the provisions of the Perry Township Resolution in 512.012 parentheses 1 for a constructed shed to remain outside the rear yard in front of the rear of the principal structure and closer than 20 feet to the principal structure and closer than 5 feet to the side lot line, because its location is non-conforming and it would alter the character of the neighborhood, and the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some other method than a variance, i.e. move the shed to the backyard behind the main structure to be in compliance. Do I have a second from any of my board members?
This is Matt, I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion amongst the board members?
I have a question. This is Bud Potter. On the approval of where the shed was supposed to be placed, was there a drawing that showed it in the backyard?
Yes.
There was a drawing that showed
Yes.
it in the backyard.
Right.
Thank you.
I have a couple concerns on this. First being that I really don't like setting precedents by moving a shed closer to the front yard. But I also have a problem with granting 3 variances to permit a structure that's already been built when it was not built on the location that the permit specified. Other than that, I don't have any comments.
Okay.
So, am I allowed to speak or?
You pretty much have spoken your piece at this point.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be denied, and for your reasonings why the denial, I have other property addresses. One in particular that's on the 10th hole as soon as you come up the drive. of Club View that is right beside the house and not behind it at all. That property is 906 Club View Boulevard.
I appreciate that information, but in concluding and arriving at our vote, ultimately, we're taking into a number of considerations beyond just that singular point. So are we ready?
Those three guidelines that you stated that were not approved, they are not compliant with any of those three either.
For the mentions, for the reasons that we have cited, is the basis of why we are proposing to deny this. And that is that it would be non-conforming. It's out of character. Your predicament can be feasibly resolved by putting this shed where it's supposed to be, which was where it was based on a drawing supposed to be in the first place before you ever put it up.
I understand that, Tom.
That's now further compounded by additional variances that have been created because of the location of where it is. And, you know, that's our rationale, and that's where we're at. I don't expect you to like it. It is what it is.
So if we move the shed, because it's not on a permanent foundation, 5 feet from the property line, we are down to 2 variances, not 3.
That's not even on the table at this point.
Why is it not?
What we are proposing is that the shed be moved to the behind the main structure and in compliance in the rear yard where it was supposed to be in the first place.
Okay. That's not where we're applying for the variance to. We're not putting it in the front yard. It's set back. It doesn't cause any issues with traffic or anything of that nature. We have a unique property shape of our yard, just like everyone else who just was recently approved. And now we are not being approved. It's not conducive in the backyard where we want it, where you guys were telling us to put it. So we're just asking for the variance to be, I mean, if it suits you, we'll move it 2 feet over so we do have that 5 feet from the neighbor's yard. That's not a problem. So that's 1.5 feet you're talking about. And then you're also talking about 1.5 feet from my garage, the 15 foot.
That's not what we're entertaining though. It's the location of where it's at in the first place at this point.
But at this point, there really is a motion on the table that the board should, my advice is that the board should resolve, should
right. So at this point,
continue to hear any board member rationales as far as the motion that's on the table, and then move to a vote.
And that's where we're at. If there's no more discussion from the board, then I call for a roll call at this point for a vote.
All right, Tom Francis.
Yes.
Bud Potter.
Yes.
Matt Ward.
Yes.
Jim Kent. Jim, you're muted.
Is it yes to approve it or yes?
I was a yes, sorry.
That's okay. Scott Deisler.
I'm a no. I was trying to talk, but I was muted. I apologize.
Vote is 4-1 to deny the application for the variance, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that's it. It's denied.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott, for your rationale.
Yep.
I don't.
Just since I have you on, what's that?
Well, no, I don't. Am I allowed to talk? I was on mute when I was trying to talk.
Please.
I guess it's moot point since it's already been voted on.
You can provide your rationale if you like.
My only rationale was looking at the dimensions. It's a 10-foot difference. That 10 feet to me was it's not a substantial difference in what it's going to look like from character from the road. And And I'm not so sure that based on the drawing, I don't know if it's going to be if it wasn't going to need a variance anyway to get the 15 feet from the primary structure. That was all. But yeah, the 10 feet, sliding it 10 feet down the property line, I don't think it's going to make the overall look that much different.
No, you can still see it from the road like most sheds around the neighborhood. So it will make no difference. You're exactly right, Scott.
Okay, are we on to any reports or announcements at this point?
So with that being said, can we get another vote to approve this? I mean, it's going to make no difference.
It's done. It's been denied. That's it.
Thank you.
Can I ask how much time we do have? Because we obviously need to make sure that we get in contact with people to move it.
We'll move it when we can.
We certainly give you a reasonable time, with 30 days, be reasonable to move it.
That's going to be up to you.
Is there another appeal that we can have before we end this meeting and maybe get some letters from the neighbors? So just from what you guys.
Just be done. Just be done. Just be done.
Okay. Well,
just be done.
We have neighbors across the street that don't mind it. They're still going to see it in the backyard. I don't understand. I don't understand the decision.
You do have the right to appeal this decision.
We do? Okay.
Under chapter 2506 of the High Revised Code. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's the same board.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
No problem.
Okay, moving on to, is there any reports?
I don't have any reports. I do have an announcement, the appointment of Joe Huffman to fill the vacancy as an alternate on the Board of Zoning Appeals. That was voted on by the trustees, I believe, at last Monday's meeting.
Yeah, and he goes by Joe, not Joseph, just for the record.
That's correct. Yeah, Joe Huffman. Yes.
Yep.
Other than that announcement, I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I think with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so motion. That's Matt.
Okay.
I'll call the roll. Tom Francis?
Yes.
Bud Potter?
Yes.
Matt Ward?
Yes.
Jim Kent?
Yes.
Scott Deisler?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
All right.